Crisis on campus. With the new school year upon us, we're doing a deep dive into anti-Semitism in universities across the globe. We'll get testimony by students from around the world, sharing their real-world experiences, and then hear important analysis from Stand With Us professionals, including Executive Director of Campus Affairs Rena Nasser First, Director of Legal Policy Carly Gamble, and Executive Director of Alums for Campus Fairness Avi Gordon. On YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and across social media, I'm Michael Dixon, and from the Stand With Us studios in Jerusalem, this is Special Briefing. Shalom from Israel. As anti-Semitism continues to rise on college campuses across the United States and around the world, students, faculty, and university communities are increasingly impacted. I'll be joined by leading voices and international students who've experienced this reality firsthand and are actively fighting back. Together, we'll explore how anti-Semitism is manifesting in higher education, the challenges students face, and what's being done to confront hate, educate peers, and reclaim safe spaces for Jewish identity on campus. But first, universities should be places where curiosity is encouraged, ideas are challenged, and thoughtful dialogue thrives. They play a vital role in shaping the next generation, empowering students to think critically, engage with diverse perspectives, and become active participants in a complex world. But today, on far too many campuses, that mission is being betrayed. Anti-Semitism is surging at universities worldwide. Jewish students are being marginalized, silenced, and targeted, not for their actions, but for who they are, because they're Jewish and because they're proud of their connection to Israel. They're being told they're colonizers, oppressors, that their grief doesn't count, that their trauma from October the 7th doesn't matter, or worse, that it's justified. We've seen professors applaud terror, student governments pass discriminatory resolutions, and administrators look the other way. Let me be clear. Anti-Semitism is not activism. It's not academic freedom, and it's not a political position. It's hate, and it has no place on any campus, anywhere. Now let's take a closer look at some key statistics on anti-Semitism at universities. Our very own Noah Shufutinsky is at the big screen to walk us through the details, and it's a worrying picture, isn't it, Noah?
Absolutely. That's why so many students are describing the climate right now as a crisis. Now, if you want to know what's going on, all you have to do is open your phone or open the news. Across campuses in the United States of America, we see protests, encampments where people are chanting not for social justice causes, but for intimidation and violence against Jewish students, calling to globalize the Intifada, that terror war against Israeli civilians, calling for an Arab Palestine from the river to the sea, a call for ethnic cleansing against Jewish students who have a tie to the Jewish people's homeland. Now, Stand With Us is aware of this issue. It's something we've been tracking for years, and we've been supporting students for years. Now, I'm going to run you through some of the response that we've been actually implementing on the ground and ways we've been supporting students. So what does that look like? This past year alone, we had 140 Stand With Us Emerson Fellows. These are the front lines of students on the ground, our defense against the anti-Semitic hate that sadly has infected many campus environments. Now, part of their work has been implementing 1,500 programs this past year alone. And these aren't programs that only speak to Jews, they speak to the wider audience. They've reached over 120,000 students of all different backgrounds on campuses across the United States of America. Now, one other aspect of what we've seen that's so worrying is the dramatic rise in the actual number of hate crimes and sort of discriminatory events occurring on campuses. Now, in the past, the sad reality is anti-Semitism has always been an issue on college campuses. That being said, since October 7th, you saw these numbers rise from maybe a few hundred incidents a year to upwards of 1,800 incidents since October 7th. Now, I'm going to run you through some of the responses and success stories that students who are involved in Stand With Us have been able to tout. And this is just a snapshot. When it comes to Kehlani at Cornell University, an anti-Semitic singer came out making multiple statements calling for violence and intifada against Jews and Zionists. And when Jewish Stand With Us students became aware of this and became aware of the fact that she was booked to perform at a university event and a university festival, they led a campaign that resulted in her actually being canceled. Not only that, it raised awareness and resulted in several of her other bookings being canceled because people didn't want to support artists who were inciting violence against Jewish students. Now let's shift over to the Midwest. At Indiana University, despite the student government president refusing to sign the bill, Stand With Us students and alums pushed forward legislation that got the IRA definition adopted by the university, therefore providing an extra layer of protection for Jewish students in the backdrop of this anti-Semitic climate. Now, you look at UC Irvine, we could also look at University of Central Florida. We had Stand With Us students succeed in tabling resolutions the student government was pushing forward in order to attempt to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel as part of the anti-Semitic BDS movement. Across the board, across the United States of America, we've been on the front lines recognizing this horrible turning tide of anti-Semitism against us, but we've been able to be successful in leading programming and empowering students to turn campuses in crisis into quads of coexistence. Back to you, Michael.
Yeah, amazing activism, Noah, and we'll be speaking to some of those students at the very front lines of campus activism in a moment from all over the world. But joining me now to discuss it all from New York is Stand With Us' Executive Director of Campus Affairs, Rena Nasser First. Rena, great to have you with us.
Great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
So since October the 7th, campus anti-Semitism has escalated in alarming ways, and it's constantly making headlines. So what are Jewish and pro-Israel students actually facing on the ground? And let me ask you this, are things getting better or worse?
Since October 7, there has been an unprecedented surge in anti-Semitism and anti-Zionist activity on campus, from protests and mass campus destructions to harassment, intimidation, and exclusion of Jewish voices. Any student on a campus during this time has reported feeling that all this activity is compounded in a way where they can't really escape it. Students have reported feeling shut out of DEI spaces, targeted in the classroom by professors, and even bullied online and in person. What's interesting, if I reflect on where things are at now versus where they were a year ago, there are a few key things to touch on. One is that many university administrations have actually looked at their campus policies, often due to immense outside pressure, but have actually looked at their campus policies and have sought to enact and uphold those policies, adjust those policies, update them so that students are feeling protected and safe on campus. And those updates include adding definitions of Zionism to their code of conduct to understand different student identities and how to respect those identities. It's also included implementing and upholding time, place, and manner restrictions on where protests can take place on campus. And even adding Title VI coordinators to help students navigate pervasive issues on campus. Now, with those changes, we've seen a decline in the incidents reported, but it's important to note that it doesn't mean the situation is completely better for students. In fact, anti-Israel antagonists, whether students or faculty, or sometimes even administrators, they're working in a very organized, calculated, hostile, and even an institutionalized way. So while many administrations have made changes to improve the campus climate, we're not out of the woods yet. Stand With Us is working on the ground to support students in navigating these hostilities, in standing up for themselves and their communities, and trying to fight for a better, safer campus climate. We still have a lot of work to do and still some steps to take to get there.
That fight goes on clearly. And when a student faces an anti-Semitic or anti-Zionist incident on campus, what steps should they take and what support exists to help them respond effectively and to protect themselves and also take meaningful action?
The first thing a student has to do is document what they're experiencing. They have to capture it in some way. If that's screenshots, recording, emails, really documenting what's happening and reporting those incidents through university channels. And that's actually something Stand With Us can help with. But it's important that there is a written record with the university as to what's happening on the ground. Because if not, any administrator, any university could say, well, we didn't know. Plausible deniability, right? So we need written record of what's happening on campus, and we need to report that through university channels. And again, that's something Stand With Us can help with. What we would also encourage students to do is report the incident to Stand With Us. there's lots of resources and support that we can provide in helping students navigate these issues and to stand up for themselves and protect themselves. We have a legal department that can help students understand their legal rights in and out of the classroom. We offer one-on-one mentorship and support from campus regional managers based all across the country who have expertise in helping students navigate the campus climate and get access to different resources and materials that we offer. And our approach when it comes to navigating incidents is comprehensive. We're looking at internally multiple departments and experts who are working together to provide students with a holistic approach, with holistic action steps they can take. So they're really getting a wealth of knowledge and resources, all streamlined through one person, but coming from an entire team that's standing behind those students. And there's also a lot of emotional support, peer support that we offer, not just from our team, but through the tremendous student networks and communities that we support on campus.
Really important support from all different aspects. We'll be speaking to Carly Gamble from our legal department a little later. And of course, it's not just about standing up to hate, is it? It's about educating about Israel in ways that resonate and inspire. So tell us how Stand With Us is helping students share Israel's story and foster community and to celebrate their Jewish and Zionist identities.
We have incredible leadership programs within our organization that provide students with the tools and the resources to proudly share Israel's story, to inspire solidarity and connection among their peers. And one of those programs is the Emerson Fellowship. It's a year-long program that brings students together and gives them resources and tools and trains them on how to bring Israel programming to campus, how to bring speakers, tabling campaigns, how to create interfaith Shabbats, how to connect with students of different communities and backgrounds, all designed to help them create meaningful action and impact. We offer toolkits, art exhibits, tabling campaigns, all tailored to their campuses, all tailored to their needs so that students can lead rich conversations about Israel. They can address that misinformation and the false claims and create spaces where students can celebrate Jewish and Zionist pride.
Rena, what kind of long-term impact are you seeing through your efforts? How are students leading the charge on campus and beyond?
It's important to note that when we're working with a student, when we're working with a campus, we're not just looking at incidents in an isolated or siloed way, but we're really helping them pave the path forward to implement change. I mentioned earlier that a lot of administrations have been looking at their campus policies, updating them, upholding them. And that's in large part because of external pressures, but also because we're helping students lead meetings with their administrators to express their concerns on campus, to advocate for their communities. And so a lot of that change is coming from the student leaders that we're training. A lot of our alumni are working in Jewish life, in civic spaces, in media, in policy. They're community leaders, and they're continuing that activism well beyond graduation, paying it forward to the next generation of leaders and ensuring that they have the tools and support they need to continue that impact. And we see in almost every case, when one student has the courage to speak out, when one student has the courage to do something, to step up, it creates a ripple effect. And so as we're empowering these students, they are empowering hundreds more just through their actions. And so that momentum is something that is also helping move the needle in incredible ways.
Education is a growth industry. And now, I'll ask you a question I'm sure a lot of people ask. With so many organizations operating on campus, what makes Stand With Us campus stand out? And how can students, parents, and stakeholders make the most of your resources?
It's interesting. I also get asked a lot, how has Stand With Us changed since October 7? How are you operating differently? And I'm very proud to share that what we're doing on campus and helping students navigate this hostile climate and also bring positive and meaningful Israel programming to campus, this is something we have been doing since our founding. And so when I think about what makes us unique, one factor is that we have years and years and years of expertise in this space. We're working on the ground with students every day and also with campus professionals through Hillel, Chabad, faculty advisors. We're helping students plan and think about the impact they want to make. We're putting them in the driver's seat and we're empowering them every step of the way. We also combine rapid response, as I said, from that comprehensive viewpoint with expertise from multiple departments, but we're also combining that with long-term leadership development. We're not just here to deal with this issue and move on. We're working to build momentum and impact on a campus throughout the year. We're maintaining those relationships. We're continuing to show up for those students and those partners where they're on the ground with them through and through. When I think about the different stakeholders out there, students, parents, even faculty, alumni, we have resources and support from all our different departments that they can utilize, that they can access. And we very much employ a customized approach. So we invite people to reach out and we can understand what you are looking for, what your needs are, and how we can meet those needs and work together.
Rena, do Jewish students have allies on campus?
Oftentimes it can feel like they don't, but they certainly do. I'm proud to say that through our work, we've engaged Christian leaders and leaders of other faiths and backgrounds. And in particular, we have an entire Christian engagement department that works to connect with Christian leaders, to give them the tools and resources to engage their church communities, their campus communities. And these students are standing hand in hand with their Jewish brothers and sisters on campus. We've also built incredible relationships with the Hindu community. Interestingly enough, the challenges they face on campus often parallel what our students are dealing with. So we're bridging these gaps, we're building these connections because we all share the same values in wanting campus to be better and safer for all students. In the relationships that we've built with these different communities through our work, we're helping students do the same thing, to connect with others, to bridge those gaps, and to build a unified campus where students are working together, they're connecting with each other, and they're fighting for that better, safer campus climate for everyone.
And Rena, we know it's not just about standing up to hate, but educating about Israel in ways that resonate and inspire, isn't it? So how is Stand With Us helping students share Israel's story, foster community, and celebrate their Jewish and Zionist identities?
We have elite leadership programs that empower students to change the narrative on campus, like the Emerson Fellowship, where students get high-level training in not only combating and confronting anti-Semitism, but also Israel education, media and social media training, campus activism, and community building. This is a program that welcomes students of all backgrounds and faiths, where they represent key campuses and universities across the country and around the world. These students are prominent voices in standing up to hate on campus, but they're also bringing meaningful Israel programming to their communities through speakers, workshops and trainings, dialogue and discussions, art exhibits, tabling campaigns, interfaith work, unity rallies, and so much more. They're leading rich conversations, they're inspiring solidarity, and they're building inclusive and diverse pro-Israel communities on their campuses that are rooted in education, in shared values, and allyship. Each Emerson Fellow is reaching an average of 500 students through their campus work, and they're working day by day to change that narrative and to build a better future for all students on their campuses.
Important advice. We'll be meeting some of those student leaders in just a moment. Rena, thank you for your incredible leadership and for your work, and to the entire Stand With Us campus team working around the clock to support Jewish and non-Jewish pro-Israel students on campus. Rena Nasser first, thank you very much. Well, joining me now to share their experiences are university students from around the world. From Australia, Idan Al-Chassid. From Brazil, Ariel Marmelstein. From the United States, Leah Koritz. And from Ireland, Jamie O'Mahony. Thank you all for joining us. So Jamie, let me turn to you first. You're a student at Dublin City University, and a video of you having an Israeli flag violently snatched from you went viral. Tell us what happened and what the fallout was like.
So essentially, about 2 weeks before the event, I saw an event being advertised by the Ireland-Palestine Solidarity Campaign involving Ilan Pappé, who is a renowned anti-Zionist academic writer. Despite having grown up in Israel, he has now come to the belief that the state shouldn't exist. And yeah, he's just a very despicable figure, frankly. You couldn't call him a historian because he has said himself he doesn't believe in objective facts. But nonetheless, I bought and read one of his books last year to try and understand how these people think. Not out of admiration, obviously. But I noticed that he was coming to my home city, and I felt myself that I couldn't allow him to come to my home city and not give him a bit of a challenge. So I decided to go along with two friends. I waited peacefully through the 45-minute lecture until it got to the Q&A, at which stage I tried to pose a couple of points to him based on some pieces that I had read in his book or that he had written elsewhere, and ultimately coming to something that he said during the talk itself. I got about 45 seconds through what I was trying to say, amidst booing and shouts of abuse by the rest of the crowd, who slowly started to realize that maybe I thought a bit differently to the rest of them in the room. About 70 plus people in the room, I would say. And at which stage I went to take an Israel flag out of my bag, and I started to say, "Am Israel Chai," and this one lunatic in front of me decided to try and grab it out of my hand. And then a bit of a scuffle unfolded because obviously I wasn't going to allow him to just take my flag like that. Flags are very symbolic, important items. And a bit of a scuffle unfolded, and I was essentially dragged out of the room by about 4 or 5 guys, spilled out onto the street before we were separated. And that was it, really. But importantly, the flag came home with us. And it brought a lot of publicity to the situation in Ireland, and also exposed how even the man who attacked me, an academic, can be so radicalized on this matter.
Yeah, absolutely. You really did, and good for you for standing your ground. Idan, you're at Macquarie University in Australia, and you got caught up in an anti-Israel rally on campus, didn't you?
Yeah, so I mean, this protest was, at the heart of Macquarie University, and there's about 150 to 200 students in attendance, and this protest had absolutely no intentions of advocating for Palestinian life and against the terror regimes that are causing such destruction. And I'm standing there in the midst of this protest in absolute shock and extremely, extremely scared. And this is a place where I should feel safe and open to express my Jewish identity. And the fact of the matter is that this protest and the situation on campus at the time was not a place where I could feel safe to do so. There were calls, extremely dangerous calls for repeating the Intifada, the fall of the occupation, divestment from Israel. I mean, the list just goes on and on. And, it only goes to show that these movements that so-called advocate for human life and safety of people really do not advocate for this. They only seek to demonize Israel by spreading hate and inciting violence. They're calling for the destruction of Israel. And violence against Jewish people, especially on their campus, especially for students like me and my peers, my Jewish peers. And not only that, but also the abolishment of Western civilization. I mean, if you take a look at the meaning behind these violent calls to action, they're trying to call for death and destruction in a place that they live in and they reside in. I never usually feel scared for my physical self. It's very rare, and I can say that this is one of those times, and these people who are given the power of freedom of speech by a public institution are only going in and abusing this freedom of speech. And last time I checked, hate speech is a criminal offense, and more needs to be done. Just an extremely shocking turnout of events at the time.
I'm sorry you had to face that. We'll hear more from you in a little bit. I want to turn to Leah. What's the climate like at Brown, where you are, right now for Jewish students, pro-Israel students, and what kind of trends or incidents are you seeing?
Yeah, so things kind of before Brown voted to reject divestment and to continue supporting Israel were pretty bad. We had the encampment, we had Intifada revolution chants and stickers. And again, it wasn't the worst, but it definitely was a big change from, Jewish high school, Jewish gap year program, all of these things. But honestly, now things are really, really, really much better. I think our president has been fantastic. The corporation, which is Brown's highest governing body, has been incredible and voted to reject divestment, which also was incredible. And I also think that right now there's been this return to calm in the sense of I've been able to have a normal college experience, which I haven't been able to have except for the first month of college, because I was a freshman during October 7th. And right now, I'm obviously still incredibly involved in Israel events. I'm vice president of Brown Students for Israel, but I'm able to plan events that are cultural and joyful, not just defensive. And that's a really big change. And this by no means means that any of the challenges are over, but I no longer feel like I have to just fight to exist, fight to be pro-Israel, and fight to kind of love Israel on campus. And I think that that's a big and a great change.
Well, let's hope things trend in the right direction there at Brown, and we'll hear more from you in a moment. Ariel, you're a student in Sao Paulo, and I understand that one of your professors referred to Hamas as freedom fighters. Tell us what happened next.
Well, if only that was the only problem that we were having in our campus, I believe that we would be living better times. The thing of calling Hamas freedom fighters, I consider that a symptom of a process ongoing from a long time right now, that it's building an atmosphere of dehumanization of the Israeli society, of Zionism and Jewish, because at the end, the targets are all Jew. It's all Jews around the world, in my campus, in Sao Paulo, and etc. And they do this on the name of tolerance, on the name of fighting racism, fighting homophobia. But I think that there's a particular thing in my university that they adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. And after that, those movements that are led by these teachers that consider Hamas freedom fighters, they're trying to put down the definition of anti-Semitism that in my university is not alone in a statement. It's inside an anti-discrimination protocol that fights racism, homophobia, xenophobia, and all form of discrimination. But it includes discrimination against Jewish people. And these guys that do this in the name of tolerance, in the name of fighting racism, are trying to put down an anti-discrimination protocol only because there is a definition specific for anti-Semitism. So this exposes like them and all the movement that what they are doing is not for Palestinian lives, is not for the tragedy that is happening in Gaza, and is not in the name of tolerance and in the name of fighting racism. It's in the name of hating Jewish people, Zionism, and dehumanization of the Israeli society.
Absolutely, it's real hypocrisy. Jamie, what advice would you give to students who are facing a hostile or isolating campus environment, who may be worried or intimidated?
Well, I think it's a very important question because there are more and more students who, over the last 2 years, no doubt, have been feeling more isolated on their campuses due to the rhetoric that we're seeing, particularly on universities. I suppose they've become very radical places and not the free places of learning and inquiry that they once were. But firstly, I would say that no matter what one thinks, there are always going to be those who have similar opinions to you, and they're just afraid to share them. And so I think a great quote in this instance is the one of Menachem Begin, who said, "We are not the Jews with the trembling knees." And it really speaks to a sort of newfound courage and, belief that I think the Israeli state has really inspired in a lot of us. The fact that, it will continue to exist and see off invaders and those who want to see it destroyed, as it has for almost 80 years since 1948, and has done so much in the last 2 years in particular. And so, one can draw on that as a student. And then I suppose the other thing is then opposing groupthink and mob mentality is very important for a free society. And I think we can see in the 20th century what happens to societies when they become more authoritarian, as only one narrative is allowed on a range of issues. But, on this one in particular, there is a danger that in, certain places it's all one-way traffic. There are no arguments for our point of view. And so, as Solzhenitsyn said, when it comes to authoritarian regimes, it's not a big figurehead at the top that keeps these things together. It's all the people of the society who go along with the lie and that can happen. In our case, for example, if we hear lies about genocide or occupation or Israel being an evil state, as Ariel said, or Zionism becoming a dirty word, these ideas have to be challenged, because the environment can become a whole lot worse if only one narrative is allowed to be pervasive.
Very well said, Jamie. Ariel, you're an Emerson Fellow who's leading pro-Israel activity on campus. What would you advise the next generation of Zionist leaders on campus?
I think that's actually a simple question, because I can answer in 2 words. You have to do something. Anything, it's an option. From studying the history of Israel, the conflict, by yourself, or by forming groups or pro-Israel groups in your campus, everything works. And I think that the world has an idea of the Jewish people, that Jewish people don't respond. They have that idea of the Jewish people who are being slaughtered and massacred in the Holocaust. And Golda Meir actually said once that the world hates a Jew that responds, and we have to respond, because we have been in a lot of years not responding, and this atmosphere of Jew hatred was built while we were not responding, and we have to respond. And I think that everything that I did, my Jewish colleagues in my campus, and what the Jewish community in Brazil is doing, is to respond every attack that has as target the Jewish community.
Good for you. Idan, you're a Stand With Us Emerson Fellow in Australia. How Stand With Us helped you make a difference in helping you lead, educate others, and creating a real impact on your campus, as I know you have?
I mean, the first 6 months of being a Stand With Us Emerson Fellow have been, nothing but an amazing journey with, extensive knowledge in Israel, Zionism, the history of our great people and our great nation. I've become a stronger public speaker. I'm able to speak more confidently, not only in front of a camera, but also in front of a crowd, and also in the one-on-one situations as well. I've headed stands and tables on campus where I've spoken to a variety of different students from a variety of different educational, religious, and ethnic backgrounds, where I've educated them on Israel and Israel society, and doing that by incorporating my lived experience in Israel as well. I've even spoken to students who have taken interest in pro-Palestinian stance, and I've educated them on the propaganda that these violent and hateful groups are spreading to students across the campus. My experience as a Stand With Us Emerson Fellow has really allowed me to bring in real sources and real evidence to inform and educate my peers. I've been allowed to make such great connections with influential Jewish and also non-Jewish people in Sydney and in Australia, and around the world, and I'm ever so grateful, and I'm very much looking forward to the next 6 months of this amazing journey.
Pushing back against a BDS resolution to the Board of Trustees there, didn't you?
Yes. Yes, that was definitely an incredible experience. I can kind of give an overview on that, give some background. So basically, yes, like I'm sure many other colleges and universities, in spring 2024, Brown had a student encampment on the main green. And this was calling on the school to drop charges against arrested student protesters from a sit-in a few months before, and then to divest from companies that were linked to Israel. And eventually, Brown did agree to vote on divestment the following October, which did make us one of the first schools to formally consider it. But one of the kind of big components of the corporation, which is the group of people that kind of votes on divestment, is there's ACRM. And ACRM is the Advisory Committee on University Resources Management, and this body is in charge of advising the corporation. It's in charge of dealing with Brown's investments and deciding whether the investments that Brown has are consistent with the morals and values that Brown University holds itself to. So ACRM, as I said before, advises the corporation and the president. So if ACRM recommends divestment from Israeli companies and resources, this would kind of be a big signal that Brown should divest. So this was kind of a big situation for us. So I was one of the people to present to ACRM the following September against divestment. And it was a lot of work. It was very time consuming. And this was kind of one of the times when Stand With Us really was incredible, as it always is. But Shira Gold and Eitan Myers from Stand With Us flew down to Brown, and were kind of just helping us day in and day out how to practice our speech we were giving. We had 45 minutes of question and answer from the ACRM, from the committee afterwards, how to answer those questions, kind of using the ARM techniques that we learned during the Emerson Fellowship. And we presented, we did not expect ACRM to vote for us, but in the end they did. They voted to not divest, and they also voted, the corporation, the one that actually decides, also voted to not divest. And this was a huge surprise because, Brown University was very involved in the protests, and really it was just very reaffirming, and it really showed that our hard work paid off, and it also showed the importance of Stand With Us. And at this point, as I said before, things on campus are much, much, much better, and we're just incredibly grateful for Stand With Us, and everything is really, really, really incredible on campus now. And obviously there are still problems, but the fact that we're able to still agree respectfully and have these conversations and disagree with each other without the university making a moral opinion on how Brown should divest, if Brown should divest, has been super incredible for us.
Really great work. So let's do a final lightning round. Just quickly tell us what you would tell new students heading into campus this year. Idan.
To embrace the process. I mean, it's such a special journey. So take as much as you can, learn as much as you can, ask as many questions as you can. There's no such thing as a silly question. Make as many connections as you can, talk to as many people as you can. This seriously is such a special journey, and it's only full of learning, and embrace the journey.
Sounds great. Let's go to you, Ariel.
Well, I think that one of the biggest problems between what is happening to us in our campus is the polarization. So my advice would to seek the end of polarization, search for allies inside the Jewish community, outside of the Jewish community, people who want to engage in really making the world a better place, and be happy. You have to study more than fight back anti-Semites. So,
great advice. Leah, let's go to you.
Yeah, I think my main piece of advice is that it's all going to be okay. Everything feels so difficult kind of when you get there, and with Israel and with academics and everything, but you just have to find your people, whether it's at Hillel, Chabad, SSI, anything like that, and you'll find your people, you'll make connections, and it's all going to be okay.
Sounds good. And Jamie, I'll give you the last word.
I would say don't get too caught up on social media. It can be very isolating and feel like everyone is against you. Get out into the real world, be proud of your beliefs, and know that there are others who think like you, and trust yourself to be able to convey ideas and discuss with them freely. The people who want to listen, that is, not the radicals exactly. But ultimately, university can definitely be a very enjoyable experience, even if it is an aggressive climate, shall we say. But know that knowledge is power, and the facts are on your side.
100%. Well, I want to thank you all for being incredible leaders. It's amazing to me how in such different countries you're experiencing very similar things, but also you really are leading in such an inspiring way. We're so proud of you. Thank you all to Idan, to Ariel, Jamie, and Leah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we've all heard the phrase lawfare, legal warfare, and some of the people right in the front line are students on campus leading that fight against anti-Semitism on college campuses. Is our next guest. She's the founding director of the Stand With Us Center for Combating Anti-Semitism, and she's the director of legal policy at Stand With Us. Carly Gamble, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk first about where we are right now on campus. What are some of the things we're seeing, some of the legal challenges, or rather legal support we're giving to the challenges faced by students on campus?
Yeah, well, as you know, anyone who hasn't been living under a rock knows that campuses have been challenging for a number of years, but particularly since October 7th. And since that time, we are seeing things like exclusion of Jewish students, particularly if they identify as Zionists, right? They're not allowed into certain spaces on campus. And that ranges from there all the way up to physical assaults and everything in between. There's curriculum issues, right? Where professors are downgrading students, things like that. So pretty much anywhere a student goes on campus these days, they can expect to experience some form of attack against their Jewish identity.
And so what kind of support are we able to give these students legally?
Yeah, it really depends on the situation. But typically what happens is a student reaches out and says, hey, this is what's happening on campus. How can you help me? One of the things that we are seeing actually more and more today that we are helping students navigate is instead of just they are having an issue, right? They're being attacked for their identity. They're having situations turned around on them, right? Where if they respond in any way, then the instigator, right? The agitator takes them up as though they've done something wrong and complains to the university. And so now you've got an entire proceeding, which we really look at as a circus, right? But we're having to help them navigate those things because they have real ramifications. And so they really need legal advice as they go through that process on campus. Bigger picture things are things like Title VI investigations, where we will submit a complaint to the United States Department of Education saying, look, things are bad enough here. There's a hostile environment for Jewish students on this campus. And so, this university is receiving federal funding. You need to step in and take a look at what's happening and make sure that they fix that problem. And then obviously we have lawsuits as kind of the final option if things are bad enough.
So if you can, give us an example of a case where we were able to support students in the firing line.
Yeah. So one example, and it's just one of many, but we have a student at a university in California who, in attending an event on campus, was accosted with vile anti-Semitism by one of her professors. In the course of complaining to the university about that and trying to get a remedy, she really quickly realized that she wasn't going to be able to get what she needed from the university without some legal assistance. And so we stepped in and we have been advising her and even connected her with a member of our pro bono attorney network to make sure that the university knows that this student is not alone and they can't bully the student, right? And so once they realize that she has legal help in the process, things do tend to move a little bit more quickly. They become a little bit more formal. There's a response that maybe there wasn't before. And so we are still in the process. These things do take time. But again, that's a support that these students know that they have in Stand With Us. And we're people who understand the legalities behind this, right? It's not just a student going up against kind of the machine of the institution. And so that, like I said, that's just a common occurrence and one of many.
What's the caseload look like for the Stand With Us legal department in this post-October the 7th world?
I can say it is immense. It is intense. We have increased the intake to the legal department by about 400%. In the immediate aftermath of October 7th, and those numbers are not dwindling at this point. It looks a little bit different, right? Because you have some universities that are actually getting on board now that funding is being threatened and things like that. But I think on average, we have around 5 new requests for legal assistance on a daily basis.
And how'd you meet that need?
Yeah, well, thankfully, we have been able to grow our legal team to meet the need. As much as we wish the need weren't there, we actually have gone from 2 attorneys who were handling, the initial aftermath. It was like drinking from a fire hose right after October 7th. And now instead of just the 2 of us, we have 6 full-time attorneys and 2 part-time attorneys, as well as, like I said, this robust pro bono attorney network across the country in the United States.
Yeah, many hundreds of pro bono attorneys giving support and help.
Yeah. Absolutely, and invaluable, really. And I will say this, and really to their credit, many of them were already part of our network when October 7th happened. Afterward, a couple of things. Many of them said, we want to be more involved. Let us get involved. And not just solo practitioners, right? A number of individuals at large law firms saying, let us put our resources behind the work that needs to be done here. And in fact, a couple of the new attorneys that we have on staff came to us specifically after October 7th. They had been practicing law elsewhere and said, you know what, we have to be involved in helping to protect and support the Jewish community.
Amazing and good for them. And I know that, much of the pro-Israel activity is very well organized, it's very well financed, and it's led by front organizations such as SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine, JVP, so-called Jewish Voice for Peace.
Right.
What can be done towards these education? What kind of action can be taken towards these organizations when they cross over that line, as they do so frequently, into creating a violent anti-Semitic atmosphere on campus?
Yeah, well, like I said, it runs the gamut. It depends what they do. But even just their rhetoric, sometimes people think of in the United States of, oh, well, that's just free speech, right? That's protected and there's nothing you can do about that. Well, that's actually not the case. if we're talking about a campus that receives federal funding in the United States, just because the speech itself that is involved may be protected, and that's a question, but often, yes, offensive and vile, bigoted speech is protected. But the way that they go about engaging in the speech often turns into harassment. Well, that's not protected conduct. And so universities have a responsibility to look at the entire situation and say, okay, just because we may not be able to punish the fact that they said X, right, which was an attack against Jewish identity, they've now created a hostile environment, an environment in which Jewish students are not able to fully and freely engage in the activities and programs of our university, right? And so if that's the case, they have an obligation as a recipient of federal funding to address that entire environment, right? And to remedy it, to make sure that it doesn't continue and to fix whatever the effect of that hostility is. And so that really is a large part of what we at Stand With Us are doing, is helping those students to make sure that the environment is improved, right, for themselves, but also for the Jewish students who come after them.
And the definition of anti-Semitism is so important, isn't it? What do you find are misconceptions among university administrations about what anti-Semitism really is?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times what we find is that people think that anti-Semitism is relegated to the realm of the religious, right? Jewish identity in many people's minds is strictly religious. And if you think that, then you are missing the peoplehood aspect of Jewish identity, the shared ancestry component. Many people use the term Zionism for that, right? And so what happens is, and has happened through a well-funded, intentional campaign, the term Zionism, which again, for Jews, means, hey, this is my shared ancestry, right? Israel is my indigenous ancestral homeland, and so I have a connection to that on a personal level, right? What's happened, though, is that has become a political issue, right? And so those who want to engage in anti-Zionist forms of anti-Semitism are saying, well, this is just about politics. And so many administrators, and we also have to acknowledge, many of the administrators on campus now are products of a campus environment that has taught this for years. And so if you think of Zionism as purely politics, then you're missing a large component of Jewish identity. And thus, when that aspect of Jewish identity is attacked, administrators say, oh, well, that's just about politics. That's a political disagreement. And so a lot of the education that we do at Stand With Us, including through the legal department, is helping administrators to understand that, yes, there is a religious component to Jewish identity, but there is also this peoplehood, shared ancestry component. And when that identity aspect is attacked, you have to respond in equal measure as you would when any other group's identity is attacked. So, and I can tell you firsthand, I have seen that light bulb go on in rooms where we are giving that education and helping administrators to understand that reality. You see that light bulb go on and they start asking meaningful questions exactly along those lines of, okay, if that's the case, then when one of these things happens and a Jewish student comes to us, what should we be doing? And the answer is, well, what would you do if it were any other group? Would you put out a statement condemning that? If so, that's what you must do. Would you do something else? Would you provide support, education? If so, that's what you must do. And so we really are focusing on helping administrators and other, kind of decision makers understand the equal nature and of the treatment of the Jewish students and how that's required. But you first have to understand when the identity is under attack in the first place.
Really important to educate the educators, I guess, and educate the administrators, not just on the university campus, but in other spheres as well. And I know that's a job that the Stand With Us Center for Combating Anti-Semitism is doing, really important. Let me ask you, we're talking here in Jerusalem. We're in Israel right now, not your first visit. But how did you get to be here, and what guides your activism personally?
Yeah, so for me, it's both personal and professional. Your life happens and you start one place and you never know exactly where you're going to end up. But I've always been well aware as a person of Christian faith, right, that my faith doesn't exist without the Jewish faith. And so, it's kind of mind-boggling to me when people don't understand, have no concept that Zionism is related to Jewish identity, because for me, that's always been a no-brainer, right? But part of that is because I know the term Zion, right? I know it's an actual physical location that is, so important to the history of the Jewish people. And so, I bring that with me. But in the professional sense, when I was practicing law, initially at the law firm that I started at, my boss was Jewish and very invested in the people of Israel and supporting Israel. And so when BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions campaigns started arising in earnest on college campuses, those became part of my portfolio. That's the one piece I can't really give an answer to. I don't know why me. I'm thankful, though. And so really I was able to begin working very closely with the Jewish community. I was representing students and professors who were finding themselves, kind of on the wrong end of BDS activity, disruptions of events, things like that, which involve violation of First Amendment rights. And, there's non-discrimination laws that come into play. And so I was beginning to do those things. So fast forward in, I think it was 2014, 2015, Stand With Us was hosting its first ever kind of national conference. It's now called our international conference. At the time, it was a BDS conference. And I realized, I need to be there in that room. I need to understand better. And so that was my introduction to Stand With Us. And several years later, here I am.
And of course, people can report anti-Semitic incidents via StandWithUs.com.
Absolutely.
Carly Gamble, thanks for all that you're doing, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Important analysis on the legal front with Stand With Us' Carly Gamble. And if you're a university alum, you can have a voice and you can make a difference. Joining me now to discuss that is Executive Director of Alums for Campus Fairness, Avi Gordon. Avi, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Avi, tell me, what role do university administrations play in either enabling or preventing anti-Semitism, and how can we hold them accountable?
They play a huge role. Administrators have the ability to discipline, to follow their own rules of conduct, to be able to create a change on campus. Campuses should be a marketplace of ideas where everyone's able to share their own ideas and their own thoughts and analysis, but it's not a place where we can be demonizing and threatening one another on campus. And so administrators play an absolutely key role in ensuring that there is a safe environment, and in our case, for Jewish and Zionist students on campus.
And we can hold their feet to the fire, can't we?
We absolutely can. I mean, that's one of the roles that Alums for Campus Fairness plays, which is to hold universities accountable and to have direct campaigns to pressure the university administrators to make a change on campus. It could be through public pressure campaigns that we have, where thousands of alumni sign on to a specific petition that we have. It could be back channel conversations that our constituents have with our leadership, our staff, professional leadership. And it could be just having conversations and them understanding the reality on the ground for Jewish and Zionist students today, which is quite challenging.
Can you share a success story or an example where Alums for Campus Fairness helped to push back against hate or misinformation on a specific campus?
Listen, we work across the country in the United States to hold these administrations accountable. I think one of the positive campaigns that we've done was working directly to engage with Vanderbilt University, which is in Nashville, Tennessee. And at Vanderbilt, we had a face-to-face conversation with the administration, sharing our deep concern about what was happening on campuses across the country, but also at Vanderbilt. They had a mini Cam-in, a lot of different demonstrations that were totally interrupting different places on campus. And so we had this direct conversation with them, and they said, please, we don't want this to stay this way. Hold us accountable. If you hear something or see something, tell us about it, because we want to make sure that our Jewish students are safe on campus. And, fast forward to today, we just had a conversation with that administration yesterday, actually, and we hope to continue our positive role that we're able to play into holding them accountable. Last summer, so we had this conversation last academic year, and then during the summer, during an orientation for new students, there was one of the representatives of the school. She was, wearing some things that were incredibly offensive. Kafia, she's not Arab or Palestinian. She was wearing that, and we made them aware that this was happening and made Jewish students uncomfortable. These new Jewish students and the parents. That's how we heard about it, and we wrote to them immediately. And immediately the next day, had a conversation with the administration, and action was taken. So when they understand that we're not just here when something happens, but we're here to continue the conversation and to continue the relationship, they understand that these changes have to be systematic.
So let me ask you the same question that I asked Rena. Reflect, if you can, on the last year. and then look into your crystal ball for 2026, are things getting better or are they getting worse?
Listen, the last year, really since October 7th has been probably the hardest time we've ever seen on campuses. As you know, Michael, I've worked in this space for 15 years now, which is hard to believe. I've never experienced such vitriol, such hate, and such issues on campus. And so the pressure is very real for these students. They're feeling it, they're seeing it. And, these changes are very, very real for them. And so I think that what's happening now is students are understanding, and alumni especially are understanding that they have a key role to play and they're able to have their voices heard. And we want to be that vehicle for them. And so I think, come this next academic year, 25-26 academic year, I think the students are more empowered. The alumni are more empowered. We're all, on the same page and want the same things to happen. And so I think that because of the work that all of us are doing on campuses, that we are going to be an organized, beast, if you will, that's able to be a well-oiled machine and help administrators kind of navigate the issues that are happening on campus and hopefully create this sustained change that needs to happen.
Super important. So where should concerned alumni go to find out more?
I'm so glad you asked. Alums for Campus Fairness. We have chapters, over 80 chapters across the country in the United States, servicing over 75,000 members within our network and growing. Please go to our website, campusfairness.org, and sign up. Tell us where you went to school. Tell us where your kids are currently at school or your grandkids are currently at school, because then we're able to give you updates within seconds on what's going on there, what you can be doing, what things we're monitoring, et cetera, so that you know what's going on at your alma mater or where your kids or grandkids are right now. Campusfairness.org.
I hope that people will sign up and really use the power that they have to make a difference for the current generation. Executive Director of Alums for Campus Fairness, Avi Gordon, thank you so much for what you do, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Powerful insights and great information and strategies as we head into the new academic year. And if you think these conversations are important, please do share the show with friends and family who'll benefit from it. Now, what are you doing in March 2026? I'd like to invite you to join me and hundreds of others in Las Vegas for the Stand With Us conference. Together, we'll unite students, community leaders, educators, rabbis, and allies from all faiths and from around the world to combat anti-Semitism and stand proudly for Israel. You'll hear from amazing speakers like Montana Tucker and Patricia Heaton and Brett Stevens, and so many more, and I'll be there too. Tickets are available now, and your experience includes 6 delicious glut kosher gourmet meals. Come ready to connect, learn, and leave empowered with the tools and resources to make a real difference in your community. I promise you this, you'll leave inspired and energized. Go to standwithus.com/conference to learn more and reserve your place before it's sold out. We'll see you in Vegas. And of course, to do the work that we do, we rely entirely on donations from amazingly supportive individuals like you. So if you'd like to be our partner today, please do go to standwithus.com/donate. Thank you very much. That's our special briefing for today. Join us next time. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and thank you for standing with us. Yisrael Chai.